From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. Been thinking about authority, use of force. Of course, in the case of the ICE shooting in Minnesota, we had an ICE agent with a gun. That just doesn't happen. That's a decision. That's a decision that people made through their representatives as a matter of law. Some of us will have guns. Others of us won't. Some of us will have the authority, the official state-sanctioned authority, to use that gun. Now, in the investigation of the lawfulness of that shooting, the FBI has taken over. They basically kicked out state authorities. The BCA, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension in Minnesota, has been asked politely to step aside, and they are being denied their authority. So the FBI, which falls under the jurisdiction of the Department of Justice of the Miller-Vogt regime, will be in charge. And they've already told us, in no uncertain terms, that the victim of this shooting was a domestic terrorist. Yeah, they're going to be in charge. We're asked by well-meaning people to keep our protests peaceful. I understand that. I also understand that there's righteous anger. And as I said during the George Floyd protests and every other protest along the way, there is room for disruption. You can't just have peaceful state-sanctioned protests. Let's get our permit. Let's walk along on streets that have been approved by the state for us to have our little peaceful expression of free speech. It's all well and good, but it's designed to appease. No, righteous anger is exactly that. It's righteous. Protests and demonstrations need to be disruptive. There is definitely room for civil disobedience. It's a well-established concept from early, even before the advent of the nation. But what's happening now is that authority, that state-sanctioned violence, threats of state power, of state violence, are being used as a deterrence. Again, even by well-meaning people. You don't want to give them any excuse. You don't want to give them any reason to shoot you in the head. You better just stay on the street that's been authorized by state permit. No, we can't have any disruption. We can't have any civil disobedience. And when you think about it, these are the same exact tactics used on whole institutions. The law firms, the universities, the private businesses we've all seen bullied into submission. These same tactics are used on whole nations. Venezuela, Denmark, both of them currently seeming to be cowering to the threats. Can add Colombia to that list. The Miller-Vogt administration, with the orange tap-dancing meat puppet out in front, is bullying its way through all of it. On an international level, it's using the U.S. economy as a weapon. Well, we have the largest economy in the world. If you want access to it, you'll do exactly as we say. We have the strongest military in the world. Do exactly as we say, or suffer our wrath. Now, any administration could have done this. For the last 100 years, we've had the strongest economy, the strongest military. So why didn't any other administration do it? I don't know the answer to that exactly. They could have. They had the power to do it. Maybe it's the fact that we're dying as an empire. Our preeminent position is starting to crumble. The BRICS coalition, other nations, are building economic independence and alternate economic agreements. This is the last stage of the U.S. empire. Military, yes, still the largest for the foreseeable future. Same with the economy. For now. And yes, this same strategy used domestically. Homeland Security cops are now the third largest army in the world, behind the United States and China. Yeah, these ICE immigration raids, these masked military thugs on U.S. streets from various agencies of DHS, by funding, are the third largest military in the world. And whether international or domestic, everyone is an enemy to be conquered. If you want to cower or surrender, great. But if you want to fight, they will destroy you. Media networks, universities, the aforementioned Venezuela, Denmark, Colombia, political opponents, protesters, you, me. And what about them? What about Vance, Miller, Vogt, Noam, Rubio, the Orange Menace himself? Well, they've been rewarded by this system. That's what a system is, after all. It creates rewards and punishments. And we've been living under the system for an awfully long time. The system of international borders, of private profit, of power, of military. You and I have been fighting this for a long time. And as we've been trying to get across, the problem with the system is the system itself, the rules, the laws. It's not the people. This infernal, eternal question about what we can do. If a system rewards the 7 deadly sins, well, then people will embody the 7 deadly sins. It's not a personal moral failure to succumb to pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. It's the direct result of a system of rewards and punishment. The system rewards these things. Advising people just to be better in a bad system is upholding the bad system. We're told to eat healthy in a world that sells us poison and drugs. We're told to volunteer or donate to charity in a world that devours all of our time and our money. We're told to be politically active in a political system drowning in money. We're told to work hard at our jobs, most of which create little or no value, but only line the pockets of owners. We're expected to buy and consume and throw away more and more as if it's a moral duty. So this constant and ever-present march of profit and power leaves all of us in its wake. Now, some of us are trying to swim against it. Others may be fighting, but ultimately surrendered to it. Most of us, I think, unaware of it altogether. And the worst of us happily pulled into the wash, embracing the logic of inevitability, twisting their own morality to not only go with the flow, but to position themselves to grab the most power and profit for themselves. We want a fair and just system, one that prioritizes well-being for everyone. And these well-meaning commentators are asking us to protest politely, to be good, and to do good, to work hard, but they never ask us to question the infrastructure that brought us to where we are. These well-meaning commentators do not challenge the underlying system of power and profit that controls our very reality. It's asking individuals to do the impossible. No, we can't do it unless and until we dismantle the system, destroy the power hierarchy. This takes more than changes of heart. It takes changes of law. Abolish profit. Abolish borders. Abolish state monopoly violence. Enact universal democracy. Now, we talk a lot around here about wholesale changes to the system. And I'm not going to apologize for that. I will continue to keep focusing on it. But also, I must hasten to point out, we are in a moment that requires immediate action. One more inflection point. One more tipping point. We seem to have been here many times. But the fact is, in this moment, the power flowing from the Oval Office can only be described as unbridled fascism. On all fronts. An Orwellian effort to manipulate history, culture, the arts. A cold and sadistic agenda to strip all aid from people in need. Economic coercion, using federal funding as a weapon. A now complete and unabashed abuse of the justice system. Targeted investigations. The dictatorship of American fascism, the dictatorship of MAGA, is nearly complete. You and I have no rights if and when they choose to deny them. It's completely in their power now. They're after 100% of your data. They took great steps toward that goal with the dodgy boys early in the administration. Now they're after your voting records. They will weaponize that data to suppress your vote, to alter election results, to suppress your speech, to threaten you with jail or worse. Violence is a central tool utilized flagrantly, openly, here and abroad. In ICE and CBP and the adjacent agencies, we have a domestic military force terrorizing American neighborhoods, workplaces, schools, churches, with absolutely no oversight, entirely under the direction and the whim of the White House. It's state terrorism. That's all it is. What else can you call it? We have an adventurous global military, relabeled the Department of War, with a new focus on lethality. Not since Hitler's Germany have we seen such imperialist ambitions, a brazen use of violence to expand the empire, the last desperate breath of a dying empire, utter lawlessness on all fronts, and the lies, my God, the lies, the Orwellian lies. Yeah, we have reached a breaking point, an inflection point, a tipping point. When asked recently by the New York Times if there were any limits to his power, the orange meat puppet said, "Yeah, there is one thing. My own morality, my own mind. It's the only thing that can stop me. I don't need international law." Now, as we've said many times, he's not capable of having an original idea. He's too stupid. Always has been. So when he says, "I don't need international law," we know that's coming straight out of the mouth of Stephen Miller. In a Friday meeting with oil executives, the White House cartel calmly discussed how they will occupy a nation, steal its resources, abscond with the profits. Corporate media covered it like it was a school board meeting. That's how much they've normalized this global criminal enterprise. Now the White House is threatening Iran with similar fantasies about regime occupation and the takeover of resources. The MAGA White House fascist regime is high on its own supply. It's getting almost no pushback from the press, from Congress, from the courts. The Oval Office is filled and overflowing with Dunning-Kruger confidence. So this is a moment. Is this finally the one that convinces enough people to take action? The awesome power of the American government has been commandeered by a handful of criminal megalomaniacs operating out of the Oval Office and Mar-a-Lago. The time is right now to utilize any and all power we can still get our hands on to stop them. We've been saying this for years. We have to use the power we have before we lose what little power we have left. The time is right now. We need to engage on all fronts, legislative and legal. Congress, you must impeach the entire regime. We're calling on Congress, including Republicans, especially Republicans. I'm not giving up on you. For God's sakes, have you some decency left? State governments still have power. Use it. Some governors, some state legislators are trying to do that. Again, I include Republicans. I include red states. I implore to your human decency at this point. Have you got any? The courts are largely standing firm, but their orders are being defied. And the Supreme Court of the United States, well, we know how they've capitulated. The corruption, the off-the-charts partisanship, the right-wingery of this court, extreme, radical. But the lower courts are largely hanging in. We got to use them. I expect a private civil suit from the family of Renee Good at some point down the line. Yeah, all legal means at our disposal to stop the regime. I'm a proud contributor to the American Civil Liberties Union. There's the Southern Poverty Law Center, other organizations with the expertise, the personnel, and the funding to bring cases. We need all such organizations to drop everything and join the fight. All lawyers on alert, all activists, all organizations, all CEOs, because we need the private sector as well. Now, I'm not very optimistic about this ask, but I'm still going to ask. Just like I ask Republicans, I'll ask private sector CEOs, have you got a soul? Have you got decency? Have you got eyes? Have you got ears? Have you any understanding of the history of fascism and what it can bring? In that same spirit, I'm calling on the spenders. Yeah, the people who spend money. We've known for a while now that the top 10% of wealth holders, of income earners, they're the ones keeping the economy on its feet. They're the ones upholding the status quo. They're the only ones spending money. Most of us are cutting back. Most of us are not spending money. In my constant calls for strikes and boycotts, I'm reminded, often by my own conscience, that people are already not spending. Yeah, all the numbers tell us. The so-called K-shaped economy. The top 10% are, by themselves, keeping our economic system afloat. So we need your help. When we talk of strikes and boycotts, yeah, that top 10% could really make a dent, could really make a difference in our effort. So just because it's a long shot doesn't mean I'm not going to stop asking. Republicans, private sector CEOs, the wealthy earners and spenders, you can make a difference in this fight. And if we're not going to get your help, well, that doesn't mean we're going to give up. That just means then it's up to us, all of us. It's up to the workers. And as always, I ask you to do the well-worn list of actions. Call your representatives. Write. Join the street protests. And yes, strikes and boycotts. Every dollar spent on corporate goods and services is a dollar spent supporting the oligarchs. Every hour of labor working for the corporations provides funding for the regime. It creates wealth for the oligarchs. We absolutely must withdraw our dollars, including rent strikes, tax strikes. Now, these start to sound a little more risky. That's a little scary, I'm the first to admit. But that's why we need mutual aid at a mass level to support those kinds of actions. Speaking of action, direct action, disrupting the regular order, sit-ins, occupations, all nonviolent, of course. Violence, no, never. But disruption, absolutely. Yes. We must disrupt the flow of money. We must disrupt regular order, regular business. Occupy buildings, block entrances, block traffic. Civil disobedience is a noble, time-honored method of resistance. And we need everyone. As you and I have been saying clearly for over a year now, we need everyone. Do what you do. If you're an artist, make art. If you're a researcher, research. If you're a laborer, labor. If you make things, make things. All in service of the resistance. And the second half of that is do what you can. We all have different abilities. Some of us are strong, some of us are weak. Some of us are young, some of us are old. We all inhabit different skills. Use the ones that you've been blessed with. So do what you do, and do what you can. Now, this is all about our short-term, immediate emergency goals right now. We have short, medium, and long-term goals. Right now, immediate action. Impeachment. Right now. Remove the regime. Right now. You want to talk about medium-length goals? Well, now we're talking midterms. They're still, 10 months away? Yeah, we need action a lot quicker than that. So the medium-term attention goes to more traditional politics, electoral politics. But of course, the madmen of the Oval Office and Mar-a-Lago are musing about canceling the midterms. I'm afraid too many of the critics on our side are not taking those threats seriously. They really need to take them seriously. And if they can't cancel them outright, they're doing everything within their power to render them meaningless. And then the long-term goals, which we've talked about before and we'll talk about again. That's things like getting out of your job if it only serves the owners. Find something that serves your community, that serves people. A permanent boycott of all corporate goods. A complete dismantling of the system. Because we've got big problems to solve. The as yet unknown impact of artificial intelligence, the crippling effects of social media brought about by profit-centered algorithms, which need to be abolished, the climate crisis, again, 100% driven by profit, 100% solvable by technology and science, already at our disposal, but the power-profit system won't allow us to fight climate crisis, let alone reverse it. Yeah, we have many problems that need to be solved. Income inequality, cost of living, child poverty, healthcare, housing, education. We have work to do. But I want to make it clear, when I say long term, I don't mean that we think about these things later. No, it means it's going to take a while. It also means we have to start right damn now. The old adage, think globally, act locally. Well, we have to think long-term and act short-term. Every action we take right now, today, has to be in service of the long-term objectives. Our short-term objectives won't do us any good if they're not aligned with our medium and long-term objectives. I believe we are in a moment, the moment. Now, I've believed it before. I've preached this sermon many times. An insufficient amount of people have agreed with me over my last half dozen warnings. Will there be enough this time? With what little power we have left, we have to drop everything and employ it, or risk losing all of our autonomy, all of our agency tomorrow. In this very precarious moment we find ourselves in, we're given two options. The problem is both options are wrong. But the powers that be can't see beyond their own limitations. So the two options, of course, one being the Stephen Miller brand of fascism, where might makes right. There's no such thing as international law. All problems are blamed on women, immigrants. I don't have to go down the list. You know what the regime believes. But the other option we're given, that the ruling elite are so in love with, the so-called post-war rules-based order. You keep hearing that phrase, right? Or one or two or three or all of those words in various iterations. Post-war, rules-based, order. Well, of course, it assumes U.S. exceptionalism. It assumes that the United States is the most powerful nation on earth, and we have every right to that position. It assumes a lot of things. So, of course, the Stephen Miller option is unacceptable, but the alternative is also unacceptable. We need people-to-people universal democracy. And that means a populist coalition here at home, domestically. This is so beyond right and left. This is a matter for those of us here in America that still believe in a government of, by, and for the people. It's just as simple as that. And there's absolutely no reason at all to bicker with each other over the right-left divide. The current fascist government has taken us so far beyond those petty arguments. And if we can get our basic house in order, as I've said 100 times, I'm very happy to have the debates with honest people who disagree with me about a lot of things. So domestically, it's a populist coalition. It's already starting to happen. We need to accelerate that. And, as I've discussed, we need that same people-to-people universal democracy internationally, among all people, led by workers. It means a mass rejection of all so-called rulers and leaders. Social and economic equity and justice across borders, across hemispheres. Because that post-war rules-based order, it assumes the global North exploiting the global South. I mean, for example, liberals here in America are always pointing to Scandinavia as a model. I used to do that myself in earlier days, until it dawned on me one day that all the great advantages of the Scandinavian nations, the so-called Nordic model of social democracy, are not only the result of socialism, the Nordic style, the sewer socialist style, the Bernie style. Their success, their material wealth never could have happened without the exploitation of the global South, the centuries-old residue of imperialism. So I don't want either option. I don't want Stephen Miller's fascism. I also don't want post-war rules-based order that assumes U.S. exceptionalism, even if it's accompanied by Nordic-style socialism, because that maintains the haves and the have-nots worldwide. So screw borders, screw the ruling class. I want universal economic and social justice. I want collective decisions of, by, and for the people. Not the people of one nation, not the people of one hemisphere, the people of the world. Screw the nation state, screw the corporations, screw the banks, screw the owners. I want global democracy. And I don't mean one powerful centralized world government. That's not what I mean. I mean every person, every family, in every community across the globe has the same rights and opportunities to thrive in their own communities without multinational corporations, without nation states, without the IMF or the World Bank to exploit them. Every community, every family, every individual equal in the sight of God, for lack of a better word. Every community, every family, every individual with the right to thrive exactly where they are, to access the resources exactly where they are, and at the same time with an equal right to travel, to live, to work wherever they choose. What natural individual human right could be more basic? So screw your fascism, screw your neoliberal rules and order, as long as they deny basic human rights. We have a right to live, to thrive, to travel, to work as we choose. Goodbye forever to the small-minded slaver mentality that suggests that those two options, fascism versus post-war rules-based order, are the only options. They are both slave mentalities. I reject both of them, and I call for international democracy. All right, thanks very much for listening. Please find this episode and all episodes at the website, charlespurcell.com, or, of course, on your favorite podcast platform. Thanks to our flagship terrestrial station, River West Radio in Milwaukee. Follow us on Blue Sky and Substack. Remember, there's a daily log on Substack, Monday through Friday, and a weekend show. Peter Donalds wrote and performed our theme song. All right, I love you. I'll see you out there.